Hi, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining today's webinar. We're real excited to have you participate. Today, I'm going to be talking to you about the 10 steps to better customer relationship management and why you need it. It's very exciting to share this with you. I love this presentation, and I hope you learn something from these next 10 steps. Step 1, what is CRM? Let me define it for you so that you'll be able to define it for yourself and your business. Customer Relationship Manager is a tool. It's not just a process, but it's a tool and a platform, and it allows you to understand and redefine what it means within your organization. I look at it as taking multiple parts of your organization. Specifically, out of the box, it would be sales, support, and marketing. And that little red spot in between is where all of those converge together, and that's CRM. What's very interesting about CRM as well is that you could drop the letter C in customer relationship management and actually call it XRM. And that X can be replaced with many different things like patient relationship management or asset relationship management or member relationship management. There's so many different things that it can be done. And when you start to look at it as a bridge to connect multiple areas of your organization together, that will help you start thinking about what is CRM. When you're considering your next process, you have to really look at assessing your current system and your current needs. So when I'm talking to a lot of my prospects and my customers today, I kind of identify them as three different types of people. There's the one type of customer that sits there, and we call them either horizontal filers or vertical filers. They're the ones that you walk into the office and they've got stacks of paper and they've got all their information, and they know exactly where it is. And they're very proud of their situation and they're very proud of their system. But that information and all that knowledge about their organization is somewhere in a stack of paper, or it's on a Post-it note somewhere, or a yellow pad. There's also those other customers that we speak to that rely on simple digital technology. It's their cell phone or a mobile device of some sort. But it's no application specifically to to capture a lot of information about their clients or their processes. But they're relying on just the phone book inside their cell phone. Both of these areas are incredibly dangerous for your organization. And the reason it's so dangerous is both of those can walk out the door very quickly. So when someone transitions out of your organization, you can definitely see that information leave your organization with them leaving at the same time. That's very expensive. Then there's also that third type of person. You're the person that just has everything in your head and you're screaming it from room to room, shouting over every cubicle that you go into. You're that monkey in the middle throwing that information. Just as dangerous of a place to store your information ultimately would be someone's head. Nice place to keep information, but at the end of the day, very costly when it walks out the door. So why should it be important to you to track your interactions? Well, the Boston Consulting Group a couple years ago did a survey amongst thousands of small businesses, and they identified that technology leaders far outperform their peers in the marketplace. And what does that mean? That ultimately just simply says that when companies invest in technology, they will do better than their competitors. Wouldn't you want to be in that situation? I know as our organization, we love investing in technology because we know we're going to be that much more advanced than our peers in the marketplace. So what are some examples and some results that these people had seen during the survey? 30% increase in sales. Pretty impressive. Your reputation becomes better in the marketplace. 40% is the study. And the last thing was that the relationships were 6 times as longer than without technology. So when you think about this, 6 times longer relationships, what does that mean? Relationships are exactly what you're getting. You're getting customers from your relationships, you're getting referrals, you're getting more business, you're getting trust. So ultimately, with these type of results, why wouldn't you want to track your interactions? So as you start looking at technology, think about your next step. You got to get organized. No one in this call can probably say, hey, that looks like my desk. But I can tell you, that looked like my desk at some point. Until we invested into a good CRM solution, this is my life. This was my life. Rubber bands filled with, business cards, little plastic bags, binder clips, things like that that would allow you to think that you are organized. Each of these little stacks are an event or an expo I went to or a conference I'd go to. But now think about what you can do when you need to go and remember something to do, remember that conversation you had with someone, actually act on that interaction. It's very difficult to find that one person that you're looking for. So in order to have a successful CRM solution, it's going to be very important that you get organized first. Be clear about your goals. Goal setting is incredibly important. At the beginning, I talked about CRM being customer relationship management. That's a very sales-focused solution. If you're looking at something like, asset management solution or an asset relationship, well, maybe your goals is where are the assets kept, who has them, what is their value, things like that. So first of all, when you're looking at your solution that you're going to do, figure out what your goals are. We're going to talk a little bit now about the Salesforce focus when you're looking at, how are you setting those goals across your sales organization. So when you want to be clear about your goals, focus on why you're deploying the solution. For us, we're talking today a little bit about the sales organization, so that's why you want to make sure you have your goals tied to exactly what you're looking for in your sales organization. Once you have those goals, it really drives the next step. Step 5 is about user adoption. You're going to need those goals to be able to have full user adoption. But before I get into those 6 steps that will help drive the user adoption, I'd be remiss to tell you something very clearly, very honest. You're going to get pushback from your employees when you roll this out. I'd be lying to you if I told you anything other than that. So what do you do proactively to avoid that pushback? First of all, again, it goes back to that goal setting. You define the goal that you're looking for. You define what you expect out of the system you're putting in place. If you're putting in a CRM solution for the purpose of increasing sales, then you need to make sure that you define what does increased sales means. If you want your sales team to report in their activity, make sure you define what is that activity. Is it okay that it's, within 24 hours you have to put the notes in about the previous meeting you did? Or is it okay if it's 3 days from now? But whatever it is, define it. Then you have to measure it. And what's great with most tools, specifically Dynamics CRM, you have that ability to start measuring the activities, seeing how often someone is updating a record, seeing how often someone is making a contact to a prospect or a client. Again, aligning those measurements along with the goals that you just recently defined, and you'll be able to have people know why they're even using the tool. And ultimately, you'll have the adoption of the users. You got to train everyone. Really important. As you're looking at the project as a whole, don't cut out training. User adoption will probably be less successful if you do not include training in your project. And something we'll tell you is we can do a train the trainer module, which means we can train one person or some leaders in your organization and they can train other people, but don't forgo training. When you forgo training, you're very strongly, most likely, going to end up having low user adoption. And then there's engagement. Engagement means top-down engagement. If you're rolling out a solution like this means from the C-level organization down to the executive admins, everyone has to be engaged in the project. So what you want to do is make sure that people who are using the tool use the tool. So senior level managers, middle level managers, salespeople, everyone is using it because salespeople will become very resentful to you if you're not using the tool themselves. So make sure that there's full engagement of the leaders in the organization because that way you'll get user adoption at every level. And then when you're successful, you want to provide the carrot. What's really exciting, providing the carrot, that's the reward. The bunny gets the carrot at the end of the race. And what does that mean? When your sales reps or your sales managers or the team is doing what they are doing, then give them the commissions they deserve. Give them the accolades. Reward them with, gift cards for doing, keeping up with it for a couple months worth of consistent behavior. There's even add-ons to CRM now all around gamification. You can actually make it a game. How many leads can someone put in? How many, conversions? How many opportunities? It becomes a whole gamified process. And now with a recent Microsoft acquisition, you'll see this very soon built into CRM. The act of being able to have awards and gamification because of people's using the tool properly. But with every reward, you have to have some sort of consequence. And that's where we talk about applying the stick. You know what? There's no reason why you can't hold back someone's commission if they're not using the tool properly. But you know what? You can delay that payment if they're not holding up to their standard. So you got to tie something to something else. And trust me, sales reps love their commission, so they're going to be most likely wanting to use the tool. And ultimately, when these 6 steps are followed, then you'll end up with really strong user adoption. Data, wow, big concept. We could have a whole webinar around data. But what I'm asking you to do is when you're looking at your CRM solutions out there, look at solutions that will actually help you clean the data you put in. You could buy lists, you could have stacks of business cards, you could scan things, but there's going to be errors in the data. And not just typographical errors, but factual errors. How big the company is, how much is their revenue, where are they located, the wrong address, how current is the information. So make sure when you're selecting a solution that is for CRM, you find a tool that will actually fix that data for you. Microsoft Dynamics CRM has a great tool called Insights. We're going to be talking more about that over the next 12 months, about how it is a phenomenal solution, and it's free inside of CRM, but it will actually clean the data for you based on public records. So if you have the wrong address in the tool, in the system, or you've got the wrong information, you can actually sync your data with their data and ultimately clean the lists that you're looking at. Step 7, on-demand reporting. So you've got this great tool, you've got people using it, you've got clean data, but now what do you want to do? You want to be able to report on it. If you select a tool that doesn't have good reporting capabilities, then you might as well go back to that, file cabinet, post-it notes, and yellow pad. On-demand reporting, knowing exactly what's going on now, not yesterday, not in the future, but what is happening now. Now you could report on the future and you could report on yesterday's activity, but you really want on-demand reporting. And what you also want is that flexibility to not have to have a license to do it. Interesting. Maybe you use a tool like Power BI that accesses the CRM database, and you don't have a CRM license, but you're still accessing the database. Pretty cool. And you have the ability to see reporting. Because there's lots of people in organizations that don't need the license for the actual CRM because they just want the information. So being able to report on that from your iOS, your Apple device, your Android device, your Windows device, tablet, phone, computer, whatever it is, think about it. Pretty powerful that you don't have to set up your whole laptop when you get home to get this reporting information. Integrate your email. You're either integrated or you're not. Everything else is called interface. So you really want to find a tool that integrates with your email. Again, Microsoft Dynamics CRM operates inside of Microsoft Outlook. I'm a salesperson. I know that all the time I'm in Outlook. I don't want to have to go into two different tools to to spend my day. I want to be able to be in one tool and be able to manage my email and my customers and my prospects all at once and have no interaction needed. Other solutions out there have interfaces and third-party connectors and things like that. What's really cool with the new CRM 2016 is it's built into Outlook. As long as you're using Outlook, you can have a fantastic connector right into your email. Marketing automation, what does that mean? You have the ability to set it and forget it. You have the ability at the beginning of the month to sit down and plan all your email campaigns, all your drip marketing, all your nurture campaigns at the beginning of the month for the next 6 months, for the next year, for the next 10 years, whatever you want to plan out. Set it up and the tool just does what it needs to do. Really important though is you want to make sure it's non-blind and give your customers and your prospects an opportunity to opt out. You don't want to give them that, you don't want to be spamming them, but specifically in California with the Cal Spam Act, you definitely want to make sure that they have an opportunity to opt out. I'm going to tell you a quick story about this. So we had a prospect about 5 years ago that we were working with, and really funny story. I joined Bond about 3 years ago, and my phone rang on about the second week I was here. Picked up the phone, and they asked for a guy named Jules. And Jules was one of our old sales reps. And they wanted to talk to Jules because they had worked with this person 3 years ago on a deal. And they were really disappointed that I answered the phone. And I said, why? I was kind of sensing that. And I was like, why, tell me what's going on. And they said, oh, I don't want to go through this process again. I spent all this time with Jules a couple of years ago. We're just now ready to buy. Ironically, I went into our CRM system, I brought up their information, and I started telling them more about their business than they knew about their business. And what was amazing was because we had this tool called CRM, I was able to let them feel very comfortable that they were able to just go through the process and not realize that a lot of time was going to be wasted. And ultimately, that's because Jules did his job, and we were able to, at the end of the day, close this deal. And the story about this is even bigger. And we said, why did you decide to call us after 3 years? And they told us specifically that they loved the newsletters. They loved the information we had been getting for the last 3 years, but they just couldn't make a buying decision at that time. And they said they knew we were still around. We had made it through the recession. They knew that we were committed to our customers and our prospects. And that was because we were using marketing automation. So customer service experience. At the end of the day, this is step 10. And it really should be step 1 because ultimately it is the most important thing. You want to give your customers nothing but excellent service. It's consistent, it's proactive, and you're actually listening to your customer. So find a CRM tool out there that allows you to continue to be consistent, measure the service you're giving to your customers. Things like service level agreements. Are you responding to them in a timely manner? Are you proactively responding to them because you notice that they come to your website or they're reading the links inside your emails, and then you could come back and say, hey, I noticed you read that email, you downloaded that white paper. I want to give you information. And then the last thing is listening. There's a lot of noise out there. Social media is amazing out there right now, but sometimes the social media that is about your organization or your competitors is really valuable. You're hearing things or seeing things that are either positive or negative about you as an organization or about your competitors. So you want a tool that will actually go out there and listen to that noise, whether or not it's Twitter or it's Facebook or it's Pinterest or whatever the social media flavor of the month is. You have a tool that's actually going out, listening to that social media noise, bringing back analysis and data and saying, hey, people think about you positively or negatively, and then you could act on it. Last story, because I love telling stories. Years ago, before the TSA changed and travel was easier, there was a guy sitting on a tarmac in John F. Kennedy, and he was on American Airlines, if I'm not mistaken, and he went out on Twitter and he tweeted, "Hey, I really wish I could have a steak instead of sitting on this tarmac in Kennedy." And what happened? I'll tell you what happened, and I'll tell you what the story is. I haven't been able to validate it, but it's definitely a story, and it's a good story. The gentleman got off the plane, and at the gate, Ruth Chris's was standing there with a gift card. And the reason Ruth Chris was standing there with a gift card was because this gentleman sitting on the plane in JFK on American Airlines, that was publicized because people on the news knew that it was out there. And the social media was out there about the steak, and Ruth Chris was listening for keywords like steak, and they knew, and they were able to figure it out. And because of the picture tied to this guy on social media, they were able to find him when he got off the plane and hand him this gift card. That's a great customer service story. And if you have the tools that you can do things like that, think about the revenue that your company is going to be able to create.
Hey everybody, this is Ned Bliss, and I'm a senior CRM consultant here at Bond. And I'm going to go through 6 quick tips to consider when you design your CRM. Obviously, there's a lot of other things to consider, but here are 6 tips that will get you off to a good start. Number 1, people need to be able to use a CRM on all the devices they use, laptop, tablet, phone, and especially the phone. And it's got to be easy to use. So if a salesperson is waiting at a light in their car, they should be able to get on their CRM on the phone and update a record right then and there. In fact, they should be able to do it while they're riding their bike. I do that on mine. Very important, you need to reduce the number of clicks and typing to an absolute minimum required to get something done on the CRM. We all know how well a high-performance cloud app should work, and if we spend even just a second and a half extra time trying to get something done, that evokes a very negative emotional response, and nobody likes that. Number 2, reduce clutter on CRM forms. Salespeople do not want to see what they don't use. If they need something, they'll ask for it. And make sure it's very easy to undo mistakes and redo something on the CRM. Okay, number 3, make it very easy for a salesperson to convert an email from a customer to a service ticket. So an email from a customer with an issue you should be able to convert that to a ticket automatically. It should be automatically routed to the correct service rep. An auto response should be sent to the customer. A service level agreement should be already in place, and warning notices should go out internally if the issue is not being corrected promptly. This should all be automatic. You should be able to do it from Outlook or a mobile device. Tip 4, funnel new leads to salespeople in the CRM. So the CRM should not only be a place where sales rep go to add leads and prospects, but in the morning when they turn on the CRM, they should have a new list of leads right there to look at, generated every day by your automated marketing platform that not only scores but sorts the leads based on their likelihood to buy your service or product. This can all be automated in the CRM, and it should be. Number 5, use a good click-to-call platform in the CRM like Skype. So a salesperson, anybody for that matter, should be able to open a lead, click twice, double-click on the phone number, make a call, and while they're on the call, easily update the record, add a note, make a change in the CRM, and save it. And tip number 6, use the CRM to calculate the sales commissions if possible. If a salesperson knows that they need to go to the CRM to see what their their commission check's going to be, they'll get to know how to use the CRM real quickly. Finally, when you train the sales force, identify the quick learners and make them power users who the other users can turn to for help. and reward them somehow. Give them that Starbucks gift certificate or something like that. And those are your 6 quick tips. Thank you.
Hi there. My team has showed you a great CRM system. Having such a powerful CRM system allows your sales team to work more efficiently, but there are still obstacles that make life tough for them when it's implemented in an isolated environment. One of the great benefits of using Microsoft Dynamics CRM is that there are a lot of tools to connect this sales system to your back-end ERP solution. Whether you're using Microsoft Dynamics GP, AX, or some other product, you can use a variety of options to pull in the business-critical data needed to really maximize your sales team's performance. Think about these scenarios for a moment. Does your team need to look up the last 3 orders a customer made to ensure they're offered the right product, but have limited visibility to the accounting system? Can your salespeople update their customers' address data so your warehouse doesn't ship any more packages to the wrong location without unnecessary emails and phone calls between your staff? Does product availability change so fast in your inventory management system that your sales team is confused on what they can or can't sell? These common headaches can quickly be resolved by integrating customer, order, product prices, and quantity data between your Dynamics CRM system and your accounting software. Why give your Salesforce or order processing team all the extra work of duplicate entry points and double checking everything when they could be working in a fully integrated system?
So I'm going to go ahead and finalize and bring this together and talk to you a little bit about the executive perspective of CRM. There are 7 key components from a C-level's executive perspective that CRM is going to need to give you. These are business intelligence and dashboards, different views, different reports, different charts, activities, report indexes. So as we're working with this project of implementing Dynamics CRM for you, you really want to look at tools that will give you the ability to have this readily available. Earlier I talked about this concept of on-demand reporting, real-time reporting. But really, what does it mean? When you're looking at your salespeople or your sales activity or your inventory levels or whatever that is inside of your organization, you want to be able to, at one point, at one glance, be able to get to this information. Having a tool like this in front of you where you've got abilities to drill down on a sales pipeline, look at trend analysis, figure out what your top opportunities are, figure out what next steps are doing. Again, all in one dashboard. Just imagine how much more revenue your organization can have to your bottom line by knowing this information. I always ask during my live sessions, when we do this type of discussion, I ask people to raise their hand and I say, who out there can tell me what they sold last week or last month or last quarter or last year? And most of the people in the room will raise their hand. But when I ask the question, what are you going to sell tomorrow? What are you going to sell next month, next quarter, next year? Very few people raise their hand. And it's the difference between looking backwards or forward thinking. When you have a tool like Dynamics CRM, it's so critical for you to have forward thinking vision. What you want to do is think about how are you going to improve your business today to make tomorrow better for you. Managing a CRM project is not easy. It's just like any investment into a change of your organization. So it's really important for you to consider some thoughts around it and have some targets that you are trying to meet when you're deciding on how you're going to move forward. Just a couple of those key considerations is figure out, is it an incremental change? Maybe you only want to roll it out to one group inside your sales organization. Change management is really hard. So when you have that cultural change, be aware of what's going on. cultural change awareness is incredibly important because, again, if you do it incrementally and you roll out the solution incrementally throughout your organization, it's going to be a much easier project to absorb. Have it digestible and realistic goals. Again, we talked earlier about those goals, but really what does that mean? Make sure you're not trying to bite off more than you can chew. At the end of the day, think about what's realistic, because with any project, not only will Bond Consulting Services have effort and support for you, your own organization is going to have a lot to do as well. So you got to figure out where you can do it. Look at your project management styles as well. There's a couple ways to look at it. Some people like to go with the traditional waterfall module where we basically, things are going as they're going and they're moving forward and we're rolling things out at the end of the deal. Or agile. We do one phase, boom, we go live. Then we turn on another phase and we go live. And we turn on another phase and we go live. That's different methodology, but both work. And we're flexible enough to work with your needs and be able to help you manage a CRM project successfully. Bond Consulting Services is a team of experts that we're going to come to your organization and help you out with your business requirements, specializing in multiple different industries: process and discrete manufacturing, consumer product goods, food and beverage,